Happy Sunday, everybody! My name is Scott Mendon, and welcome to this channel. If you're coming from my personal channel where we compare the XR and the Pine X, welcome. We're stoked to have you. If you missed the results, hands down, Lily and I are going Pine X. We're just saying, as I did not mute my own iPad over here, let me mute that. But we are super amped to have you. We were talking about Lily and facial hair. And we got Joey in the house with some new facial hair. Joey, how
What's
you doing?
happening, everybody? Yes, I have some new facial hair. You know, I have that. It's kind of a dirty mustache.
Why do you say dirty? It looks so
I don't know.
good. You look good.
All I gotta say is it's a good day when your wife is like, I actually kind of like it, and I'm like, that's right.
Yeah.
So,
actually, we both arrived today because it's been quite a while since I've been here. I have the beard. You have a mustache. And then Lily said if it was acceptable and she could, she would grow a beard. So Joey, what do you think, Lily? Well, we should Photoshop a picture.
We should.
Lily.
Like, what type of beard do you think she would have?
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think she'd have the really long beard?
No,
I think she'd have a. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think she would have like a very like big, like almost like a Santa beard.
A Santa beard.
Yeah, I feel like she would really grow it up.
I'm sure she would. Hey, we have a special guest in the studio today, and he actually has a beard as well. We know him as Ryan. You're going to know him as Ryan, one of the funniest guys I have the chance to do life with. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a brisk morning, so I'm glad that I have my beard and my mane that I have wrapped around my head.
Yeah, like you are a guy that changes the beard up. Like a few weeks ago, I mean, it was a month ago or so, you had like the Fu Manchu thing going on, right? Where you... Right? Isn't that what you had cut?
Oh, yeah. So I actually messed up my beard in the morning, and I trimmed my chin too far deep, and I said, I only know one thing to do with this. Shave the chin off. Had some nice chops going on up yonder.
Yeah, it looked good. It looked good. So, hey, we're super stoked that we got people in the chat and stuff. If you're brand new to this channel, go ahead and give it a subscribe. We, on this channel, man, we love hanging with you. We do talk about One Wheels here, very little. But really our hopes on this channel is to point you to something that will get you to think and reflect. And with Thanksgiving right around the corner, we thought we'd show a great video to remind us the whole idea of this time of the year, which is Thanksgiving in the United States. I know that Canada, you guys celebrated your Thanksgiving, I think it was last month. Other countries, you might not have a Thanksgiving like we do here in the States, but in the States, it is Thanksgiving. And we thought it'd be really good to remind you the reason for the season. But before we do that, Joey, we're going to ask you, what is your favorite go-to dish besides a turkey on Thanksgiving? Let's hear it.
Go-to dish, I will have to say probably, I mean, mashed potatoes with gravy.
What? That's so boring.
I mean, I actually don't like turkey. Like, I don't like...
What
the turkey.
is wrong
I like
with
the
you?
dark meat, but the light meat, it's usually like, unless it's just the cook, but it's just like too dry.
I mean,
it's just too dry.
I don't know who's cooking your turkeys, so don't tell me, because then I will feel bad with my next comment. Right now, I don't know, so I can freely say they must be cooking it wrong. It shouldn't be dry. Our house this year, we're smoking our turkeys and gonna fry one as well. A fried one and a smoked one.
That sounds pretty good.
Okay. I don't know.
I might. Maybe I'll come over.
You're welcome. Come on over. All right, Ryan. What is your go-to dish at Thanksgiving that you gotta have?
Hands down, green bean casserole. I mean, there's not even a question about it. Green bean casserole, so good.
My problem with green bean casserole, it's one of those meals or things that you have to eat hot, cool, or lukewarm. Tastes gross. We'd love to hear in the comments what your go-to dish is at Thanksgiving or your big feast. Mine would be, I gotta go, I just gotta say it, cranberry sauce. You gotta have it.
Cranberry sauce.
And it needs to be in the shape of the can. I don't want none of this other stuff. I want it to like, you know, when you put it on the plate, you hear that, and it hits and it just jiggles there. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. You gotta have it.
Yeah.
There it is. I mean, my mouth is watering. It's gonna be a good time. So that all said, watch the video. Hopefully it will get you in that right mindset we're talking about with Thanksgiving just right around the corner here in the States. This should put a smile on your face if you've ever been around a child. All right, enjoy this right here. We'll be right back. Here you go.
Uncle Jeff, Have you seen the last piece of pumpkin pie?
What did it look like?
Come on, you're like 50 years old. You should know how pie looks.
Jeff, 50? Oh, come on. Can you even count to 50?
Uncle Jeff, I got some questions for you.
Yes.
Why do we have turkey on Thanksgiving?
Because when cooked properly, every 4 or 5 years, it's delicious.
Okay, so then why would we have green bean casserole then?
Touche.
Why can't I have a whipped cream but not the pie?
Clearly it's not stopping you.
Why did Mom have a full plate of stuffing when she's on keto?
Because carbs are comforting.
Why can't I just lick my plate?
If I'm in charge of the dishes, I actually encourage that.
Why are there no unicorns in the Bible? Why am I not allowed to sit close to the TV? Why does water taste different at Nana's house? Why isn't Grandpa allowed to have salt? Why is gravy brown? Why am I not allowed to touch the air freshener? Why does Cooper pick his nose so much? Why does Mom call me by my sister's name? Why do we plant all the time? Why can't I eat grass? Why can't I sit in Dad's chair? Why is Sunday school called Sunday school? Why do cows have 4 stomachs? Why do parents whisper when they get mad? Why do old people write in cursive? Why do babies have no teeth? Why is baseball so boring? Why do fish have no lungs? Why is Thanksgiving before Christmas? I know why.
You know why what?
I know why Thanksgiving comes right before Christmas.
Okay. Tell me. Why does Thanksgiving come right before Christmas?
Because it reminds us to be thankful that God sent us Jesus.
I never thought of that before. I like that. All right, now, hit me with some of that whipped cream, girl.
I'm happy on my face. I'm okay.
Okay.
I am? Okay, so this looks good.
Here, so we're pretty excited. We might have been muted the whole time there, but that's okay. We're figuring it out. It wasn't on your end, it was on our end. So great job to our team. I should flip the camera around today. The whole tech table today is ran by my children today. And so great job. They're learning. Icons on the sound. Legend is on the computer, and Epic is switching today. Joey, you said mashed potatoes.
I did.
Did your wife?
I did, yeah, and my wife. So obviously, as you can see, if both of us said it, that means it must be some good mashed potatoes. Like, it must be different than like what most people make. It must be, because we both said it. Yes, it's plain, but it's unbelievable. So you might have to try it sometime, because we know what we're talking about.
Or that's what you gotta. You just bring it this way.
I will.
And I'll give it a go. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
maybe we'll bring it in studio.
Yeah, I think next week.
Oh, jeez.
It's a week before. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving. We're gonna bring in some. We're gonna have our own little feast in here. Maybe we'll fine tune it. Maybe it'll be more breakfasty since it's so early in the morning for us. But we're gonna have our own little Thanksgiving feast next week. It'll be a lot of fun. So make sure you come back and hang with us. We again are always excited to have special guests with us, like Ryan and us. Ryan, you do ride a one wheel, right? You have one.
I do. I have a one-wheel XR.
And what do you like most about having the XR?
Gorsh, it can handle my size. I'm a 6 foot, 205 pound man. I find it can handle me a little bit better than at least the old Pint.
Yeah. Now, if you didn't know, anytime we do any XR races, we're always riding his. Mm-hmm. And one of the best stories we've got with borrowing his, you need to go back to watch our last year Christmas special. We always do a big Christmas Day special on this channel. And we were borrowing his XR, which I think Joey was riding and Lily were riding, and they caught on like on race 2 that day that it was a flat tire. that you hadn't pumped it up. So thank you for sabotaging the competition with me having nothing to do with it. Well done. Did you know that?
I did not know that until somebody had told me. And I was like, okay, well, simple solution with that. Put some air in it.
Yeah, you should have checked it. Do you remember that, Joey?
I remember there was a flat tire. I did not remember whose one wheel it was,
Yeah,
but
I remember. I just watched that.
yeah,
Christmas
it's
Day.
very, very frustrating.
Joey, are you catching that today? I don't know if anyone's caught it in the chat today that you and I have the same colored shirt on. You have.
No, I did not catch that,
Look at
but you know that's a nice looking shirt,
Yeah,
Scott.
it's a nice looking flannel you got there,
Thank
Joey.
you. You know,
Well
you
done, man.
gotta stay warm, and it just matches the stash, kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like the right
So
combo.
you have to dress up the stash. Is that
Yeah,
what
you
you're
do. You gotta dress up the stash a little bit. If I was, yeah, it's. I don't know.
You are so funny. People that have mustaches out there that have had it forever are going, this dude crazy.
Well, obviously,
yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. You know, I feel like this facial hair looks good. You know, most of my facial hair, it's like all like peach fuzz and like thin hair. I can't grow a real beard like these men over here. So this is gonna do, and I think it looks good.
It does, man. You need to rock it for a long time. It looks really good. It's so trendy right now, Joey. Well done, man. I give you the golf clap.
Hey, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, so that said, we want to some of you are gonna probably ask, well, where's Lily? Lily's traveling again. She had another grandma pass away, so that's 2 for Lily, almost back to back. So if you see her name pop up in the chat, give her a little love today, because she would love the encouragement. If you have followed her on Instagram, you can DM her there and just say, hey, thinking about you. As she's down with her family. I believe one of the services is today, and she's actually speaking at it, which is a pretty cool opportunity to be able to speak in front of her family. And so, Lil, if you're watching, we love you. Get back here safe when you travel back, but be that bright light you are for your family down there. That said, this channel exists to inspire you right where you are. We want to make sure that you remember and know that you matter. You matter to us in this room. We get up early on Sunday mornings to do this, to reach through a camera lens, through your iPad, your TV, through your headphones, to tell you you matter. If you're on the fence about your worth as an individual, you matter. There is still a purpose for you. And sometimes we get lost into the worldly, the material things of the world that we measure our worth from. I don't have this house, I don't drive this car, my job is this and that, and then it makes us feel less important. You matter. You're important to us and to God. And we on this channel always want to point you not just to yourself to make yourself better, like, hey, think how positive thoughts, those are good things, but that you matter to God. That God has his eyes on you. That he created you. And now don't click off, because that would be the tendency here. Oh, they're done with talking about mustaches and flannels and mashed potatoes, and now they're going to get into... Maybe today you'll hang with us and we'll say something that will help you right where you are, to get you out of it. We saw in the last video somebody saying, hey, I had a rough week. Here, with these videos and what we're speaking on, can help pull you out of those things, begin the journey out of the minutia of life. And it starts with remembering that you matter to us and to God. In this video, read the words, please. You'll see what I mean. And listen to it. It's so good. Enjoy this. We'll be right back right after this to kind of have a conversation about what you're about to see. Enjoy this video.
To the broken and to the hurting,
We're muted.
to the desperate and to the defeated, to the common, the average, the plain and the small, I want you to know, you matter to God. To the washed up and the worn out, to the helpless and the hopeless, to the cast outs, the dropouts, the last picks and hypocrites, to the unimpressive and the underwhelming, to the nobodies and has-beens, to people just like me, you matter to God. You are not defined by your worst days or your biggest mistakes. And you're not the sum total of all your setbacks, slip-ups, failures, and faults. Because who you are is not determined by what you have, where you've been, or what you've done, but who Jesus declares you to be. You matter to God. Maybe at some point somebody told you something that simply wasn't true. That you're nothing but unworthy, unwanted, and unloved. But I want the loudest voice in your ear to be the voice that breaks the cedars and shakes the wilderness, and he says, you matter to me. Before the galaxies were born, or the first star gave light, before the ocean waves crashed or the night sky cracked with thunder, before any creature crawled or any bird sang, before the planets were set in motion, he set in motion the plan of your salvation. From the highest heights of heaven, the Lord of all creation looked upon your desperation. He became like one of us to remake all of us, to make an orphan his child, to make a rebel his friend, to set the prisoner free. You matter to God. So to all the sons and daughters of God, to all my brothers and sisters in Christ, behold his power and glory and majesty. Behold the one who matters most.
Oh man, that is such a great video. I don't know if you were paying attention to all the words. Maybe you need to, after the live stream, rewind it and go back to that video. Like, I want that pumping in my headphones while I'm running. I want to say, I just want to really quick, those that are in the chat here, I can see your names. I just want to say good morning to some people that I just see your names popping in here. So we got Dan and Jen Woodham. Oh, so good to see your names in there. We got Sarah in the house. We got Michaela. We have Joey, who is here, but also here. He's in two places. Who else do we got in here? We got Tree Kenner 13. I think I'm saying that right. We have Michael Ryan, Adam Banks. Let's see who else. Good morning to all of you. Like, just to see all these names in the chat. Who did I just see say they? We got Nick Orlando. Thank you, Nick. First time guest today. So cool. Thanks for clicking to the after show. Well done to call it that. How did we not, Joey? How have we not been calling this the after show?
I don't know.
No
What
idea.
have we even been calling this? Have we even been calling this like
Nothing.
a show?
No, we just
It might
like,
be. You might have just named our after. It's the after show.
the
I think.
after show.
That's great.
Genius.
Great job, Nick.
Nick, well done. Be a first time guest and give us an idea.
Seriously.
Come over to the after show. So good. Mary Mendenhall, that's my mom. Hi, Mom. Mom, we have a nice dusting of white snow, if you wanted to know. She's always asking that. We got Kayla Lilly in the house. Always good to see your name, Kayla. I love seeing your comments. Thank you for being such a great human. And then we got Adam Banks, who just said, this is the one that he writes, stop. Just off a run and no food, and you guys are making me want mashed potatoes.
See?
Yeah, well, I mean, well done. I mean, you did. I mean, well done. Ryan, you did say on the mashed potato conversation that what do you like to do with mashed potatoes in your turkey? I mean, this is right, Ryan?
Well, I mean, I'm combining them. I mean, they're better together.
But
No.
don't you feel like at Thanksgiving, that's what you do? You put all your food on a plate, and then somehow it's got like every bit of things, like mashed potatoes, the green bean casserole, and the turkey, and stuffing, as Dan said he liked, and you just put it all together on a spoon and just put it in your mouth, right?
Certain things go together, but green bean casserole, my gravy, well, the gravy, yes, but my green bean casserole has no business being with my stuffing.
No?
They're separate.
Separate, all right. I just think you put it all together and just transfer it. That's just how I've always thought about it. Just because I just put so much. Okay, we're so. it is making me hungry as well. All right, we now have a moment for you guys where we're gonna play a song, and the idea of this song is to again make that transition from all the things we're talking about today, and give you a moment to reflect on who God is in your life. We understand with the 20-some people that we can see in the chat today, that you all are coming in here today, logging in with different things happening, different events happening, different things in your family are going on. And sometimes we don't stop and pause and ask the question, where's God in my life? What role does God play? So we ask the question to you, what role does God play in your life? Is he existent, non-existent? Are you on a quest to figure out who God is and who Jesus is? Are you on a hunt to figure that out? Well, you're in a great place, because here we present those opportunities for you to answer those questions. Maybe you're a seasoned vet of being a follower of Jesus, and you're like, yeah, okay, I can't wait. Let's see what song we're playing today. And these things, you just love the reminders and all those things. But some of you, you're on the quest of like, okay, who is God? Who is Jesus? Why do they matter? Well, we're going to answer some of those things over weeks here, maybe today. You know, we're always going to point you in that God matters, you matter, and God wants a relationship with you. And so we got a great song that talks about good grace. And here's my little thought on grace really quick, because we don't use the word grace very often. I don't think we don't even know probably what real grace is. We think we do, but grace was introduced really through Jesus. Jesus comes in on the scene, and all of a sudden Jesus brings this grace and mercy that a culture was very unfamiliar with. And Jesus introduces grace, which is like a pardon, a forgiveness, without you doing anything. It's a simple belief system in that Jesus is who he said he is, in that I believe he died on a cross and rose again, and in that I can ask forgiveness, and not actually, I don't have to do anything. Jesus did it all. Grace and mercy, good grace. So I think a lot of people's view on God is he's a judgmental God and an angry God. That is not exactly accurate. So over this time, over the next few moments, this song will play, and we hope you enjoy it and reflect and ask the question, who is God in your life? And if you don't know how to answer that, we'll help you when we get right back from this song. Enjoy Good Grace. It's one of my favorites. Here you go.
Come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Oh, 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 come on, let's sing together, Jesus. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in his blood. Jesus, Lord of heaven, friend forever, his kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. All come together, come together.
Swing wide,
praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good love. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. And Jesus, our redemption and our salvation is in his blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, his kingdom come. His kingdom come. His kingdom
There we go. Okay, we are working on the technical things. Hopefully you could read my mouth there. Sorry about that. We're so glad to have you with us. There is a line in that song that just jumped out at me, and I want to talk about that. But before we do that, we normally do what we're about to do at the end, and it's really for those that are regulars and you've been here or all. We want to give you a chance to give and to help what we do here at Unlock Church. And we're going to flash it on the screen really quick. We make it really easy for you guys to partner with us, to partner with other people. You can give resources to text the word UNLOCK to 77977. Those resources help us to do what we do in what we're calling now the after show, after our release of the One Wheel video on my channel. We thank you for those who are being generous. We thank you for those that are partnering with us to be able to do this. It's so much fun to see first-time guests in the after show, to see Nick jumping in here. It's so cool. And heaps of others today. And so thank you for those that are doing those things. You'll see here in a bit why that's flashed up first. But I want to go back to the song. There was a line in there that said, "Good God, good grace, friend forever." It was referred to God as friend. I'm throwing a curveball to the guys in the room. Ryan, you're going to be second. Joey, we're coming to you first. When that line says, good friend. God, referring to God as a friend.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, maybe some people that's a new term, thinking about God as a friend. Can you break that down for us, Joey?
Possibly. I mean, I think of God as a friend. I mean, that's like the relationship piece with God is he is our friend. I mean, he's a lot of things to us. He's our friend. He's our savior. He's our teacher. He's a lot of things, but he's our friend. Like, we can talk to God like he is our friend, and he wants the best for us. And that's just like what usually a good friend wants the best for us and will help us. Same thing with Jesus. Same thing with God. He is our friend, and he pushes us to be better.
Yeah, I think when you read through the authors in the Bible, they talk about Jesus as a friend of sinners. There's a big churchy word, right? Sinner. Sinner is such a it's a churchy word, and so many people have so many issues with being called a sinner. That really it is, like myself included and anyone in this room, we miss the mark all the time. Like, perfection is the goal, that's the bullseye, and we miss it every time. I act selfishly when I shouldn't. I am get too fast to lose my temper when I should be slower. I say things I shouldn't. I definitely think things that I shouldn't. Ryan and I were at a fire pit a couple weeks ago. Remember, Ryan? And I asked this question, and I'll ask everyone out there. What would you pay to keep everything that you've thought from being presented on a TV in front of all your friends? How much would you pay, Ryan? What did you say that? Do you remember that question? I asked that. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, it's everything. Everything.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was like, that's me. I was like, I'm going to give up everything to not have all my thoughts projected somewhere. Why is it? Because I know my thoughts, and they're not always right. And so I miss the mark continually. But the authors of the Bible record Jesus being friend of sinners, meaning he is close to those that are not perfect. That's every last one of us. So friend of sinners. Okay, maybe that's a different term you've ever heard. But so Ryan, we're coming to you on God being a friend, Jesus friend of sinner. What does that create in you when you hear that?
Well, one thing that I look for in a friend is somebody to hold me accountable. And a friend of a sinner is going to be somebody that does hold me accountable. I would say a bad friend to a sinner is somebody that, proliferates my sin, lets that go unchecked, where God has it written down literally how I should be aiming my life. And so that I can't think of anything more friendly than that right there.
Ooh, that's a big term when you like accountability. That's something in our culture of 2021. People don't want accountability. They want individualism, and they want privacy, which I think everyone should have privacy. I'm campaigning something. Don't go looking or trying to read between lines here. But accountability is very unique. Joey, when you hear the word accountability, especially as a coach, yeah. What does that mean? What does it even look like to have accountability?
Yeah, I mean, I think keeping someone accountable. It's like for example, you don't want to fall into that certain temptation, and so you make it known that you struggle with something, and so that person, whoever you told to, can kind of try to keep you accountable, trying to keep you away from that, and redirect your steps, I guess, in a way, and just trying to help protect you from whatever that may be. And coaching, I mean, keeping each other accountable. I think of just being on time to practice, for example, making sure that the whole team is there at practice, and if one person isn't there, then the whole team has a consequence. Keeping each other accountable to make sure that we're working as a unit and to get to a destination that we want to be at.
Oh, I like that. A destination where we want to be at. I love accountability. I genuinely do. I actually seek it out. I think that's something in your life that you have to be on the hunt for. It doesn't just come your way. It doesn't just Velcro to you. Accountability is something that you have to pursue. So my question to you, who's holding you accountable to your goals? It doesn't need to be just in your relationship with God, though that is great to have, but your goals, your personal, your finance goals, who are you sharing your goals with that are coming along and helping you get there? I know for me, a lot of you might remember or know that I was training to run 100 miles. I ran just before my family and I had the encounter with COVID. I was up to 50 miles, just had ran 50 miles straight. I didn't walk it, I ran it all. It's pretty exciting for me to say, but for me, I said it the other morning to my wife, Holly. I said, the 50 miles was so anticlimactic because it was like, it wasn't the goal. It was like, great, I did 50 miles, but that's not what I was training for. And then the day I was supposed to go and do the 100 miles, it was the day I showed very first symptoms of COVID. So we'll talk about all of those things. But along the process of training, I had accountability. I had friends that were asking, how's the training going? I had a coach that was asking, hey, are you still eating right, sleeping right? Asking all of these really personal questions to make sure that I was on course to achieve my goal. What are your goals in your life, financially, spiritually, emotionally, and who do you have in your back pocket that's holding you accountable? I understand that's a tough one to answer. Ryan, as you have, what I love about your story, Ryan, is that you've come from maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer ago, where you didn't have a relationship with Jesus, and now you do. You probably can sympathize with some people dropping comments like, hey, I'm not into religion, I can respect it, but, so you probably can, but how did you make that transition to where you were okay with people holding you accountable in the way maybe you spoke or things you watched or did? How did you handle that transition?
Gorsh, honestly, the transition to having myself held accountable was rather easy because the steps that I was taking, I realized that there was chaos in my life. My life was chaotic, which is just a stressful thing to live in. And so the transition of applying Jesus' principles, I started having peace. So I wanted to be held accountable. I want to be held to that higher standard. Because on the other side of that, you may first think I'm losing things, but you're gaining so much more.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it when you say, with accountability, or even entering in a relationship with Jesus, I'm losing something. But the truth is, you are gaining something. I don't remember who I was in a conversation with this week, but I try to explain some really deep thoughts, as simple as I can make them, for people to latch onto, like this. This is truth. This is what test me on this, okay? Joey, you're going to explain this for everybody at home, okay? Having a relationship with Jesus has made my life better, which is the selfish part of my relationship with Jesus, is it does make my life better and makes me better at life. That said, Joey, now I want you to break those two things down. You've heard me say it. I've never asked you if you've actually gotten what I'm saying when I say it. But when I say that Jesus makes your life better, it makes you better at life, what is it that is said in those two statements right there, Joey?
He makes your life better. I feel like that's said in both statements. Is that what you're asking me? Or
yeah, but break it down more than he makes it better. Like, that's just the statement. There's always a way to really put some meat on it. If that's the bones to it, now put the tendons and ligaments and muscles to it to make it like maybe blow up people's minds like, oh, I get that.
I mean, yeah, I think I'm tracking. Okay, so I think, like, knowing that, like, it sounds cliche, sounds amazing. Okay, he makes your life better. And I like what Ryan said. You know, a lot of times we think we are, like, when we follow Jesus and follow the principles that he teaches, we feel like we're going to lose something. We're going to lose that thing that we enjoy doing, or we're going to lose that. But in reality, if we follow those principles and we follow Jesus, he's going to make our life better because he knows how we best function. And a lot of times I think we come into this world and we think we know how we best function. We think we know what is best for us. We think this certain book knows what's best for us. But in reality, God created us and he knows how we function. And so we should listen to the owner's manual, we call it the Bible, to kind of teach us the ways, because ultimately that is going to help us produce more fruit and have more joy in our life and a lot of different things. So that's what I have.
Yeah, I think you're right, Joey. And if I can create a visual for people, let's go like a right angle, right? So you have half a square. So you have the side of square that's going up. I know this is, my iPad is a rectangle, but just get over it. But you have this line of the rectangle and then this way, right? So you have you have a vertical, and then you have the horizontal. So this part, when we say a relationship with Jesus makes my life better, that's this. My relationship with Jesus, he's making my life better. He's helping me deal with my anger, anxiety, depression, lust, envy, all these things. God's speaking to me in that, okay, hey, you need to be slow to get angry. Stop watching that. So he's making my life better. I'm not having to manage guilt anymore because it's like I get to be guilt-free because I'm trying to be more like Jesus and less like myself. So that's my life better, relationship with God. The other part makes a relationship with Jesus makes my life better and makes me better at life, which is this way. The horizontal part, and that's relationship with people. That now as my life gets better, the quality of my own personal life gets better through relationship with Jesus, and in turn makes my relationship with Ryan better, with Joey, with my wife Holly, with my kids, my co-workers, because then Jesus speaks in and tells you and I how to best behave and act around those people, or how to treat our enemy, or how to love unconditionally. So a relationship with Jesus is not a religious experience. It's not what we see. So many movies have made it. It is a relationship. I think Dan wrote in the chat a moment ago, it's relationship over religion. That's what we've got to view a relationship, or even God and Jesus. It's a relationship that here, and we're going to switch a little bit after this, is that God so loved us that he sent his son to die on the earth. Read John 3:16. I mean, you see it about every football game in the end zone. John 3, you just might see 3:16. It's John 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes might live forever. Like, read it, it's so good. But we have this idea that it's a checklist and it's just like, oh, so much control. None of that is true. It is a relationship with God through Jesus. That God so loved the world that he sent Jesus, which Jesus is the bridge, the gap between us and God. Jesus is that bridge. So we have to answer the question, who do you say Jesus is? Do you believe Jesus died on a cross and rose again? If the answer is yes, and you ask forgiveness of the things we've missed the mark, that puts us back into a relationship with God. When we ask forgiveness through Jesus, what it does is it makes us clean again. Because we can't do it on our own. I mean, have you ever tried that? Like when you really screw up, and you feel really guilty. Like, I'm going to throw my lovely daughter icon under the bus for a second. And it's just really what's happened is you've watched today, she's been the sound girl. Now, she has not done sound on this soundboard ever. So this is the first go at it. A lot of buttons you got to press and just switch. And she's missed it a couple times. The sound didn't turn on or she didn't mute it. And she, for a moment, lost it. She's over there like doing this to this, but she lost it. She started crying in between videos and stuff, and I'm coaching her, going, no, you're doing fine. But she felt guilty. She's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Get me off this thing. But what was it? It was her guilt that was eating her. She couldn't manage away her guilt. All she knew to do, the only thing I can do to make this feeling go away is get me off this, get me somewhere else. And maybe in your life, you're trying to manage your guilt and your shame, and you're trying to try all these other things. Maybe you're drinking or partying, you're just trying to suppress the guilt and shame that you feel, here's the deal. That Jesus comes in and says, I can take that away from you and you don't have to feel guilty anymore. I can forgive you and you forgive yourself and then you'll be in right standing with God again. That's what makes your life better and makes us better at life. It's like I get to walk around guilt-free. Now, this is not permission to do whatever I want, get away with it. That's a whole nother conversation, but this is not that conversation. But that's what should make you excited and in turn make you grateful for what Jesus did, which is die on the cross and rise again. Now, to these guys in here, this was not in the notes. This is all bonus material. But Ryan, as I say that, and talking about guilt and shame, does anything pop in your mind that you're like, I remember, or you want to add to that and you can say, no, not really, I have nothing. But is there anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
I don't know if there's anything I want to necessarily add to it because it was all really great. But by golly, I mean, I'm a human being. I have things from my past, just like I know you guys do out there. I definitely have things that have transferred through time that still dwells in my mind. And, shame, that's from the enemy. He'll go ahead and he'll tell you, do this thing. You'll gain enjoyment from it. And in a second you do it, he's like, you are worthless. It's like, that's all the enemy. God, he accepts us regardless. He died for us. And I love Jesus.
Yeah, that's so good, Ryan. Joey, anything on that as we're transitioning from that thought that you want to add about as we're ending there with the guilt and shame? Because I think that's real for so many. We all got to experience it in here with my lovely daughter, Icon. We saw it play out. Yeah. It's a great illustration. Icon, so many people have already dropped a couple comments in the chat. You're doing a great job, Icon. Well done. So they're proud of you. So you're doing great. But Joey, anything you want to add to the guilt and shame conversation?
No, I think I liked what Ryan said, that guilt and shame, a lot of times the enemy uses that to kind of push us down and say we're not worthy. But I think Jesus, there's freedom in him and forgiveness. And like Ryan said, Jesus is amazing. And it's a lot more freeing to follow him. So yeah, not a whole lot. You guys said it well.
No, you're doing great to wrap it up. Now, my next question, we're going to shift, and I'm going to ask a farming question or a planting question. And those that are online, would you drop in the comments, have you ever planted any fruit or vegetable, something that produces food for you? Have you planted it and been successful? We'd love to know what you have planted. I'm going to ask the two bros in here. We are missing some of the lady vibes here. Lily, come back soon. People want the lady vibes in here. Icon's the only lady in this studio today, so she's holding it down. But have you guys planted anything and either had success or have some kind of story with it? Joey, have you ever planted anything and got to eat your fruits?
So that's a funny question. I don't think I've ever planted anything. I might have. I think I might have planted a tree when I was young. I put a seed in, and now there's this tree in our backyard, or where I used to grow up. But no, I don't think I really have planted anything and actually ate from it. But we have a vegetable garden now in our backyard, and so I think this next spring, I think that's gonna happen. I think I'm gonna start planting some things and start farming a little bit.
Start farming. And so anybody that actually farms are going to go wait. So you live in the suburbs of Twin Cities and you're going to farm.
Yep, I'm going to farm.
That's called gardening, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'm calling it farming.
But you do you, Joey. You farm.
I will farm in my backyard.
Okay, how about you, Ryan? Plant anything and get to eat from it?
The only physical aspect of this that I've ever done, I've never gardened.
How about farmed, apparently?
Well, neither. Okay. I did, though. There was a small portion of my time I lived in Pensacola, and my uncle and we grew some peppers. And boy, did I definitely got to taste those on the other side of that, and they were hot.
They were hot. Well, it's funny that you say peppers, because Holly and I planted a bunch of things today, and we also reaped from previous owners of what they had here, from raspberries and blueberries and apple trees and so many other things that we got that are growing. But we planted early on in the season jalapeno bushes. I love jalapenos. One, after we planted it, I was like, besides the taste, that's what I love of them. But what benefits do you get from jalapenos? I did not know there were so many great benefits of jalapenos. I'm going to share really quick what I learned about jalapenos. One, a regular jalapeno, we're not talking about habanero or just green peppers. We're talking about just a jalapeno pepper. It's 4 calories, just in case you wanted to know. They have fiber, vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin A, vitamin K. They have magnesium in them, and it breaks down the percentage. Like, I just was blown away that was all in it. Did you know this? That also, besides consumption through the mouth, that you can literally take a jalapeno on a cut or an injury and rub it on there. And yes, it will be hot at the beginning, but as it goes through the skin, it will actually help heal the issue. A lot of people before modern medicines would take in on swollen joints, rub a jalapeno, cut it, and rub it in on their skin, and then it brings down the swelling. When you consume a jalapeno, it also is a anti-inflammatory properties in it that helps take down swelling. I was eating a lot of them as I was training for the 100 miles because it would help in my joints. It would decrease the swelling in them just from a jalapeno. And those properties come from the spiciness. So the more spicy the jalapeno gets, the more of those properties of taking down the swelling is in it. And if you want to know how to determine if your jalapeno is hot, this is how you know. A red jalapeno, as they turn from green to red, they're actually turning a little bit more sweet, less hot. A solid green jalapeno, it would be considered a medium hotness. A green jalapeno that has now brown lines on the side is going to be much hotter than any of the other two. There's the facts that I've learned. But I planted 3 bushes, Holly and I planted 3 bushes, and we have had jalapenos all summer. From May to just a couple weeks ago, before the big freeze here in Minnesota, we had jalapenos. I sent jalapenos home with people. Every time somebody would visit, or like, hey, take some jalapenos, because it was maddening how many jalapenos we had in our garden. We would pick them and eat them. We didn't even have to store them. And then a couple weeks ago, I picked, 75 of them, boiled them in water, and froze them so I didn't lose them. I wanted to be faithful to what I had. The interesting thing that really stands out to me when I talk about this, how many jalapenos we got. We planted 3 seeds. 3 seeds. That's it. And produced enough of a bounty to share with my friends and family, and then have leftovers. 3 seeds. Ridiculous. Now, if I would have planted 6 seeds, I mean, it's just the idea that I'm trying to paint here is actually a no-brainer. It makes sense, right? You plant 1 seed, you get heaps more. This is actually, the author Paul writes in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. He just, it's an aha moment for anyone that's not a farmer, Joey. I'm saying you're not a farmer. I'm calling you out, Joey, but nonetheless. In 2 Corinthians 9:6, I think we have it. We're going to get on the screen. Paul writes this. He goes, remember this. Whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Right? Some of you are like, yeah, okay, he's not telling me anything new, really. But are you actually applying this principle to your own life? It's not just to gardening. More seeds I plant, the more I would harvest. But if I only planted 1 seed, I wouldn't have had enough to share the bounty of my jalapenos with other people. And so, let me ask this question to you, Ryan. What does, when you hear the word sparingly, can you define that for me? What does that mean, to sow sparingly, to plant plants sparingly, because we don't use that term? How would you describe that?
I would define that as, what are you putting in your garden? You're going to want to plant things that produce, fruitious things, like things that are going to give you that vitamin C that the jalapenos are getting you or something. Where if you plant a weed, one, that's not as not as nutritional, and it's a real burden to get out. Those roots, like think of a root of a thistle, it
Yeah.
goes far down. So what I look at it as, pay attention to what you're putting in your garden.
Okay, I looked at, because the word sparingly I don't use at all. I might now. I did look it up, Ryan, and the word sparingly mean in a restrictive or infrequent manner, in small quantities. There it is on your screens. That's what to sow sparingly is, to really not be intentional. Really, if I was to really break it down and say, okay, it's in being unintentional in what you're doing. If I just went out there and was like, drop the seed and didn't dig down and then water it and all that, it's like one seed, we'll see if it takes, it takes. If it doesn't, no big deal. Sparingly is to not really care, to be infrequent. Now, Joey, what is, when he says whoever sows generously will also reap generously, what does generously mean when you hear that term, Joey?
I think what it's saying is generously is, I mean, kind of the opposite of what we were just explaining. I think it's planting lots of seeds and being purposeful with it, you know, digging deep enough to put the seeds, but planting lots of them, not just one and we'll see what happens. Kind of being purposeful with what you're doing.
Yeah, so we have what Paul's writing here. One is with purpose, and the other is not intentional. The question I would have in your life, in your goals athletically or physically to get in shape or whatever your goals are you sparingly pursuing them or generously pursuing them? Because the results will be very, very night and day on the way you pursue those things. Maybe you're single and you're like, I don't want to be single anymore, and it's just like, I'll just sit here and wait, and you're doing nothing. Now, this is not a, hey, now go ask that girl, like, be wise. How am I going to do? That's a whole nother topic. But single people, think through, maybe have accountability. And you're, hey, is it cool if what do you think about me asking this girl out this way? That'd be a great thing. It would keep you from being embarrassed or being hurt. Just be wise. But the question in your goals is that you're sparingly going after it or generously. The definition of generously from the dictionary, not me making it up, is shows a readiness to give more of something, especially money, than it is necessary or expected. To sow generously, to when I'm planting, is go one would do, but 2 bushes or 3 would allow me to have extras to eat and give away. That I'm not just thinking about my consumption, I'm thinking about other people. I'm actually not about my consumption. I have an assumption of I want to give these away. So as I planted this garden, and Holly and I planted this garden, we were giving things away. When our apple tree produced, like, I think 10 apples this year, we ate them, and then we gave a couple of them away because it was like it was enough for us, and then here's a couple to give away. Our elderberry tree or bush we have, we cut off some, froze some, gave some away because they're like, ooh, that's really good stuff. Again, we're sharing. Why? Because we intentionally said, let's plant more than we actually need to give away generously. This has got to be something that it's got to be, some of us got to rewrite our DNA in the way we think about doing life. Are you going to sparingly do life or generously doing life? And here's Paul trying to paint this picture to a group of people that are followers of Jesus, and he's trying to give Jesus principles here. And he goes on and says in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things and at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work, as it is written. Now, when Paul says, as it is written, he's going to quote from Psalms 112. He's quoting the Old Testament, which in those days, young Jewish boys, they had to memorize the whole Old Testament. They had to, like, every word of it. Could you imagine? That's like the test to see if you can become maybe a rabbi, is that you had the whole Old Testament learned. That to me just feels daunting. But Paul's writing here when he's talking about your generosity and my generosity is that we should decide. Each of you should decide in your heart to give. So he's calling all of us, saying every last one of us, we should be generous. We should be giving of our time and of our money and of our things. We should be giving these things. And then he says, he quotes Psalms 112. Now, let's go to Psalms 112 and read Psalms 112 so you understand what's happening. Let's put that on the screen really quick, Psalms 112, so that you guys can read along with me. Good will come to those who are generous and lend freely, who conduct their affairs with justice. It is also written that they're using the part that he quotes in that's later on, and I backed up. You're like, wait, that doesn't match what they put on the screen. That's because I backed up and went to 112, 6 through 8. I think that's somewhere in between there. But the first part, Paul writes, good will come to those who are generous and lend freely, who conduct their affairs with justice. You don't need to put that back up anymore because it's confusing people, I'm sure. I love what Paul writes here. Good will come to those who are generous and lend freely. It's this idea. Everything I own, I'm not going to double fist. It's mine. No way, you can't have it. I'm going to manage it because I know it's not mine. God might ask me to give it away at times, and when I do, I want to give away something I've taken care of. I don't want to give away crap. I mean, come on. How many have ever experienced with someone, oh, sure, you can have that, and you're going, yeah, you're in your mind, you're like, you're only telling me I can have that because it's falling apart and you've got the new shiny thing. Like, think about it. If I had a broke down one wheel that's barely going down the road, but I have a brand new one over here, and I go like, sure, you can have that one wheel. It's not me being generous. It's actually me being spiritual. Here, you have my garbage. Here you go. And so we want to be faithful with what we've got and then manage it and hold it with an open hand. Managing, because think about it. When life is done for all of us in this studio and where you are watching, you're no longer in charge of what you think is your stuff. What you might think is a treasure, somebody's going to throw away. They're going to get a dumpster and go, this is a lot of crap. I want to get it out of here. But to you, it's like, wait, whoa, what? No. We are managers. If we live like this, boy, we are going to be... I just love there's this promise in Psalms, good will come to those who are generous and lend freely. And it goes on in Psalms 112, surely the righteous will never be shaken. They will be remembered forever. They will have no fear of bad news. Their hearts are steadfast, trusting in the Lord. Their hearts are secure. They will have no fear in the end, and they will look to triumph on their foes. This is Psalms 112. I mean, this is powerful stuff. You don't want to fear the bad news anymore? The breaking news that's breaking you about vaccines and where the jobs are and inflation and COVID, all these things that just like, oh, you don't want to be broken? You don't want to be fearful of the future? Well, right here in Psalms 112, Paul is quoting and referring to the people. It is a mindset of that all things come from God. That God created everything. I mean, that's a tough spot to think about. Like, how do I live like that? That all things come from God. Joey, how do we live like that? How do we live that all things come from God? Do you have a thought on how to do that?
I mean, how to do it. So, I mean, I think it sometimes can be hard to do because it's backwards of how culture is and how a lot of times we think, or how culture thinks, like of money or of things of, I'm going to get this, I earn this, and so I'm going to keep it, I'm going to hold it with my fist closed. And so I think it's how to do it. I mean, having those accountability partners, having getting into the word and just I feel like the more you do that, the more like it becomes true to you. I guess that's a tough question on how. I mean, you just got to do it. Just do it.
I think it's practice makes perfect a little bit in it. I remember there are defining moments on this topic for me that really rewrote my DNA on trying to be more generous, because at the end of the day, we all fight for ourselves first, typically, unless you can rewrite your DNA a little bit. And I say rewrite DNA, I know you can't, it's more of a mindset, but I'm just trying to paint a picture there. But I remember I was just married. Holly and I had just received a decent amount of money for the age we were. And I wanted a new guitar and amp. And so we decided to go get this new guitar and amp that we had, I could not afford, but throughout receiving a little bit of money, I went and got it, and this became my pride and joy, this guitar and amp. Well, my youth pastor at the time that I grew up with was working at a church just a few miles down the road, and he had called me that Sunday morning, go, hey, can we borrow your guitar amp? Because ours just blew out. And I was like, I really didn't want to. I was like, I can't afford to buy another one if they break it and all these things. And so I him-hummed around, and it was like, at the end I said no, which he hung up and had to take care of his problem. And he called me back on Monday, and we had a real hard conversation where he goes, hey, let's get coffee. I go to show up coffee. No idea that this conversation, and he really challenged me on my generosity. He's like, listen, you think God only had the ability to give you one guitar amp? That if that was broken, that he wouldn't provide another one? That God actually gave you that to manage that, to maybe perhaps help us in our time of need? That you had the solution to the problem, but because, Scott, you were being selfish, you weren't able to give it away or share it. Oh man, did that break me? Did it make me feel guilty at the time? Absolutely, because I felt like, what can I do? And then I realized through accountability that, oh no, you aren't going to manage away the guilt. It's a learning experience so that the next time somebody asks for something, that you freely let them have it. And it's always stuck in me, no matter how much I value something, that, okay, I'm going to let somebody have it, use it, ride it. Like the Pint X we got our hands on a couple weeks ago. Reluctantly, I mean, I was like, oh boy, my kids all want to ride it. They're going to scratch it. We want it to look good for videos and da-da-da. But I let them ride it because I wanted to be generous. It was a great way to exercise this. It's not about me. Let other people ride it. They scratched it. They wrecked it. You know, they had a blast on it. And I got to teach some of the really little ones, hey, be respectful with other people's things. I didn't ground them. I didn't lose my temper. It was a parenting moment. But something I learned from my youth pastor, to be generous, because you can't you can't outgive God. That is a term you hear a lot, and this is true when you experience it. But this is a mindset. This is you want to help people, then be generous with your money, okay? And I'm not after your money, but be generous with that, because that indicates a lot about you and me if we're not freely willing to give something away to people, especially our money. But it is a mindset that all things come from God. And so let me ask this question. Do you want to be remembered? Do you want to make a huge impact in this world? Do you want to change the current culture of your family, the culture of your workplace, the culture of your house? The overall culture, do you want to change it? Well, here's how you do it, and it's in part of Psalms 112, verse 9 through 10. This is what Paul quoted here. And they shared freely and gave generously to those in need, and their good deeds will be remembered forever. They will have influence and honor. You want to be remembered? Past your lifetime, then be generous with your money and with your time and with your things. And it's not picking and choosing out of that. Money, being generous with your money, being generous with your time, that you're not too busy that you can't help, and be generous with your things, that you're willing to help people. Hey, you got a truck and somebody needs help being moved? Don't get disgruntled that, oh, they should get their own truck. Be freely to let them use your truck, or you drive the truck if you don't trust them. That's what Paul's trying to paint here to a group of people that are deciding to give resources to a church in Jerusalem. Okay, so let's back up in 2 Corinthians and begin to wrap this up. 2 Corinthians 9, verse 1, so the beginning of chapter 9. There is no need for me to write to you, Paul says, about this service to the Lord's people. He's talking about raising money to give to the church in Jerusalem. For I know your eagerness to help, and I have been boasting about it to the Macedonians, telling them that since last year, you in Greece are ready to give. And your enthusiasm has stirred most of them to action. And then he says, but I'm sending my brothers in order that our boasting about you in this matter shouldn't be proved hollow, but that you will be made ready, as I had said you would be. So Paul is sending accountability to church in Corinth, in Greece, to make sure they follow through what they said they were going to do, is give money to Jerusalem, church in Jerusalem, because they were in need. They were struggling. We talk about a lot here, see a need, meet a need. See a need, and then meet the need. Don't go, I see it, and then, oh, somebody should do that. That's you. You see it, now meet the need. Figure out how to help them. Don't just, so I'm sure somebody will stop. I'm sure somebody will give them money. I don't have enough money. And we bring up all these reasons, but that's just self-standing up. I love the accountabilities. I'm going to send accountability so you follow through on the goal you said you would. Because I've been bragging about you, which then his bragging about their generosity has inspired Macedonians to give, because they see the church in Jerusalem's in trouble, and so they're going to raise money and give it to them. You need to read the Macedonian deal. We don't have time, but it's pretty wild how poor that place was. The group of people gathered, they were dirt poor, yet they still gathered money to help a hurting church, a hurting group of people. I think about what I was reading here, and I don't know about you guys when you read this part where he's sending somebody, but as an endurance athlete running these long distances, the beginning of that day I left to run 50 miles from my house and return to it, the start was exciting. Okay, never run this far, let's go. The end was like, whoa, yeah, it's almost over. The middle part, brutal. You hit mile 26, you're like, okay, that's a marathon. I still have a little less than halfway to go. It was super windy the day I did it. And it's like, now I need people with me to say, Scott, you still got this. Don't give up. I see that you're capable of doing it. It's tough out here, but you got this. Are you eating? And they were encouraging me as I was going. That's what Paul's doing right here. He's encouraging them with sending Titus and a couple other guys there. You need people around you to finish your goals. We all need people around. We can't do it alone. That's why Paul is sending someone. I love this part in 2 Corinthians 9:10. For God is the one who provides the seed for the farmer, then the bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide the increase. He will provide and increase your resources, then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. So, it's what we were talking about before. This isn't me making up, that all things are from God. He sent them to you. Which then, let's take it down to the farming thing. Okay? The farmer grows the crop. Harvests the crop. This time of year, you see the farmers around here in Minnesota gathering the crops. They sell their crops to somebody that can turn the corn or the wheat or the beans into flour. Then the baker buys the flour from the corn or the wheat, makes the bread. The bread is eaten or sold to someone. God provided the rain that took care of the seed and then it's always through God. Boy, does that change? If it's always from God, then I am a manager of those things, and God will ask me to give these things away. This is a posture. This is an attitude of all things come from God. Do you have that attitude? Where you live, the new house you have, is it God gave me this, or are you disgruntled about where you live? Are you being faithful with your house? Faithful with the car that God's given you? Faithful with the friends God's given you? Faithful with the wife that God's given you? The husband God's given you? Faithful with the resource? Are you being faithful with all those things that God's given you? Can He trust you with more? Are you disgruntled that I want more? I don't have enough. When we are generous, we point to something that is not of this world. Our generosity is proof that there is a righteousness that can be learned. When we are generous, it points to another world. It points to, why would you give that away? Why would you give resources away? It points to God. It points to a bigger thing. So, Paul says this in 2 Corinthians 9:12, he says this. So 2 good things will result from the ministry of giving of your money, your time, your things. The needs of the believer in Jerusalem will be met, so the needs will be taken care of, and they will joyfully express their thanks to God. So when you and I are generous, especially with our money, those 2 things happen. Needs are met, and people will remember you and say thank you for your generosity. I learned this week, or actually the last 3 weeks, as my family and I have had COVID, and we had to lock ourselves in, right? Quarantining ourselves from the rest of the world for 3 weeks. That meant we couldn't go get food. And with 10 people in the house, you go through food fast. And we were at the mercy of people. And it was crazy to watch how many people would text, how are you doing? Drop off food, drop off other fun things that makes our time better. Some did it when we were like, hey, we got a Sam's pickup, can you go pick it up? And they would do that. Others go, I'm just dropping off pizza, thinking about you guys. Other people sent gift cards to Xbox so we can get games that we wanted to keep the time going. You know what we did at night? When we would sit down as a family to pray, we always prayed for those that dropped off things. It wasn't because we had liked them more. It was God brought our attention to their life for that moment. And we would pray for those families. We would thank God for those families because of their generosity. We would pray for them. And we have done that a lot of times in our lives when people drop off things. God, thank you for that person's generosity. Thank you for them checking in. It's not about just giving things. People made up games on text messages with me. They would send a picture of an ant-filled donut and say how much money to eat this. And it was just a way to keep our minds moving and enjoyable. People would text and check in and go, how are you doing? And have a conversation through text. Some of you did that are called This Church Home. Online you did that. And we prayed for you. And when I was reading this just the other week, I was like, I experienced all of this. That I thought of so many of you. Joey and Ryan both reached out to me at different points. Hey, how are you guys doing? It's not about buying groceries for people. Sometimes it's a nudge just to talk to somebody. And so, as we wrap this up, Ryan, you got to read this verse last night, and as I'm talking about it, and about being generous with money and things of that nature, what pop? Because this could be a turnoff to a lot of people. A lot of people think this is the problem with Christianity, is they just want my money. That's why we did giving before this. So it wasn't about me manipulating you to give to Unlock Church. We didn't want to manipulate you, but we want to give you a biblical principle that will make your life better. Ryan, are there things you want to add to this as we wrap this up?
One thing that I love about this specific section is it can get scary, right? Like, it's scary. It's like, the church wants my money. I used to be this kind of a person. I was not a follower of Christ. And it's like, they want my money. And I'm just not a part of that kind of organization. But if we look at this scripture in particularly, this is Paul holding the church accountable to seeing a need and meeting a need. He's not even talking to the regular man. It still applies to the regular man. But he is holding the church accountable. And I think that's powerful to know that Christ is bigger than even that. Like, Christ is bigger than that. And that's what we should be striving for. So, I don't know. I love that out of it.
I think that's so, we should be striving for this. What we talked about today, we should be making steps. It's if you grew up in the church, they talk about giving 10%. Start with a percentage of your resources and start giving it to, you can do Unlock Church, but become generous. This is a great season in the United States with being thankful and grateful to start doing those things. Those become, okay, I'm going to trust God. Because again, Paul writes, hey, well, what's cool about this is you give, God will bring the increase. Now, I'm not saying it's a dollar for dollar. That's just silliness. I'm not about prosperity, gospel kind of deal. But I have seen where God has shown up in my life as Holly and I have been generous through our lives of giving up our things, letting people drive our cars, borrow our things, use whatever. It's that open hand mentality. I've watched God provide. Now, have people borrowed things and broke things and returned it to me, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. Yeah, that's happened. But then that's where I tap into the other things where Jesus makes my life better, is I forgive them and I don't hold it over their head and make them feel guilty. There's so much, oh my gosh, there's so much I want to keep talking on it, but I hope it's coming through to you today on this generous mindset. I mean, this is it's packed with so much truth that I'm going to give you one last idea, but we're going to check in with Joey. Joey, anything to add to this as we're talking about this?
I mean, no, you guys have, Scott, you've done a great job talking about it and hit the main points. I just think for me in my life, a lot of times this verse, this section of where Paul's talking to the Corinth church, I ask myself this question all the time. Do I trust these things that God has provided everything. God has made everything. Am I trusting these things that he's made more than I'm trusting the God that made them? That's a question I've asked myself dealing with the struggle with giving of resources and different things like that. Do I trust God or do I trust my money more? Which one do I trust? Or do I trust my whatever it may be, but do you trust God? So
that's a great question for every one of us to process. And as our kids are making money currently for Christmas gifts, they're constantly being reminded by Hal and I to be generous with it. That hey, you're going to need to be able to give a portion of this back to God. As it's a way to say, God, I recognize everything from you, or everything I've gotten is from you, and I'm going to give back to you. And it is a posture towards God, and it is a game changer. I love how Paul wraps this up. He goes, for your generosity to them and to all believers will prove that you are obedient to the good news of Christ. When we are generous, we are proving to people around there that we are doing life differently than everybody else. It will make people turn their head, raise an eyebrow going, there's something different about it. Why would you give that away? Why would you give me this? Why would you loan that? That's such an expensive thing. And it turns their head and it actually points to something otherworldly. That's out of this world, that points to Jesus, the good news. And they will pray for you with deep affection because of your overflowing grace God has given you. Thank God for this gift too wonderful for words. So, are you generous with your money? Are you generous with your time? Are you too busy with your time? Are you generous with your stuff? That's where I leave it. Now, here at Unlock Church, we're going to, as the end of the year happens and Christmas, we got a really cool thing that we're going to unpack in a couple weeks about being generous. And we can't wait to do that. But this, it gives you a chance to wrestle before we unpack an idea to you that is going to be an aha moment, but it's going to have to be through a filter of this, you being generous and beginning to take those steps. Boy, we got a lot of work to do. Thanks for hanging with us. Let me pray. Jesus, I pray for everyone that's wrestling with this. Those that are like, that's my problem with the church. May they see our heart that it's not about people's purses and wallets. That is about people having a better relationship with you, which will make them better with other people. Will you move people in a direction of a lifestyle of generosity with their time, their money, and their things? That you would allow us to live with the idea of open-handedness. What people ask for, I will allow them to have. When I see a need, I will meet those needs. And that would you give us the eyes? Give those the eyes to see where you're already showing up in their lives. That they would see that all the things in their life, from their plants that they've planted, or their chickens they're raising, or their kids they're raising, or the home they live in, the new car they're driving, or their car, or the promotion they would see it's from you. And that would excite them to be more generous and more giving. God, we absolutely love you. We thank you for how good you are. In the bad times, in the medium times, in the great times. You are the same yesterday, today, and forever. Thank you for teaching us these things. Jesus, we absolutely love you. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging with us here at the now called The After Show. We're so stoked to have you with us. We will be back next week talking about how to be thankful and grateful the week before we get to, and there's Ryan on the screen. You never know, Ryan, when you're going to pop on a screen. But we'll be back next week. I think Lily will be back as well. We're stoked to be able to hang with you guys. Have a great Sunday, wherever you are. Enjoy your day. We'll see you next one, because this one is over.